guys, welcome back. Do I have a demonstration for you? Chances are you may have seen my last demonstration, which actually was with Tom. I'm at CSI headquarters, and excuse the mess. We are busily trying to get ready for SEMA, as well as make headquarters here more nice, neat, and pristine. In the meantime, I've got to continue to feed you guys information and videos, hopefully that will educate you and get you on the right path to getting the kind of results that you want in your life, and specifically in the world of your car and auto detailing business. So with that said, is one of my biggest issues, if you've been following along with me for any length of time, is that I take great issue with the industry in the endless terminology, hype, misrepresentation, ambiguity. I can label it in many ways, but it makes my head want to explode. So it's one thing to misrepresent to get you to separate yourself from your money in the form of some new shiny object in the window. That's just a metaphor. So the shiny object in the window, the companies out there are going to forever come up with some new shiny object in order to separate you from your money. But in order to do that, there's this thing called advertising and marketing. So they have to come up with new terminology because we get tired of the old terminology and it becomes boring and we become complacent. Well, complacency and boredom is not much of an incentive to get you to buy some new hyped up product. So it's one thing to add terminology that just, in my opinion, does not even make sense or is so ambiguous you don't even know what it means. And it's another thing to actually introduce some terminology that is relevant. But that's the second issue I take is, okay, fine, pull out some new terminology, but please, by all means, explain it to your audience so that we are educated, so that we can become an educated consumer. Well, that's the goal of this video today, is to show you a very compelling hands-on demonstration, but also explain a very overly used term called optical clarity. What does optical clarity even mean? So what I want to do, and this is Tom, and I've got to give him credit because he's the one who brainstormed this idea, and I just thought, when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, that is going to be perfect, Tom, because there's this thing called optical clarity that you will find on many packaging and many, for example, YouTube detailers, and even detailers that have enough experience under the belt will throw it around. They'll talk about optical clarity and all the different types of polishes and compounds that you can use to obtain optical clarity. What does that even mean? Well, I'm glad you asked, even though you probably didn't ask. So I'm going to ask for you the questions that I think many of you should be asking of the industry itself. And as now a investor in CSI itself, now I can go behind the curtains and I can pull the curtains open for you guys and enter the world behind the scenes that most of you will not have the ability to enter, because I guarantee those big companies out there, they're going to keep those curtains tightly closed because they don't want you peeking behind the curtains. So with that said, let's get started. So the subject, optical clarity, you'll notice I've got this big, and this is a big round plastic, and I'm grossly oversimplifying it. Like anything else in life, and I will repeat myself endlessly, nothing is created equal. So this type of plastic, you could call it acrylic. It would be the same type of acrylic that they, for example, make acrylic fish tanks out of. Polycarbonate, that might be a stretch. Point is, it's plastic. Why am I using this? Because it's a representation of the clear coat that's on your car. Believe it or not, at a rudimentary level, the clear coat on your car is a form of plastic. But a little sidebar, because I want to give a shout out to two specific viewers. James O'Brien, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the feedback. Once again, like I said, I believe that you and I probably reside about 99% unanimously on our debates. Also, a Vinny Carleone 62. Now, my guess is that Vinny, that's a reference to The Godfather. And then your moniker, your face looks like it's Kurt Russell from Sean.
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, which I saw like 100 years ago, which I know is hyperbolic. Wasn't quite 100 years ago. Sean, you can have your camera back.
Also be Escape from LA.
Oh, Escape from LA.
You made 2 of them.
Regardless, Vinny, I know that's not your real name. Probably not. I don't know. I suppose it could be. I'm not sure what the 62 is. Perhaps you're the 62nd person to use that name. So what I want to do is, you see this? This is what's called optical clarity, which means in the eyeglass industry, if you've seen the other videos, you have heard Tom talk about the catalyzing moment as to why he went on to develop the original, and I will stress that, the original, because he first developed this over 20 years ago, a single product polish. Now, he was a frustrated body shop. I will paraphrase this and simplify it for you. It's kind of the Reader's Digest version. He was a frustrated body shop owner. The industry kept giving him endless types of products. There's many companies, Frekla, 3M, I can name Meguiar's, and they all threw out different types of compounds, different types of polishes, but really nothing really solved all the problems. It's like, well, this compound works, but it doesn't solve swirl-free. So the point is how do you produce, or how do you go from point A to point B? Point A being heavy defect removal or sanding mark removal down to a swirl-free finish with a single product. So that was the catalyzing moment, is that he went into the optical world, as in eyeglasses, as well as canopies on fighter jets. So those are made of different types of plastic. What he found out is that they were, you see how this part in the middle is obscure, it's kind of opaque in nature, not clear like this. So in order to make eyeglasses, and I'm going to stick with the eyeglass industry, is they start out with a piece of plastic. Now, something that often you guys have not connected the dots is, even though we call them eyeglasses, guess what eyeglasses are not made out of anymore? Glass. It's plastic. Your lenses are called plastic. So officially, this is where life has not kept up with modern technology, even though glasses have been being made from plastic for many, many decades. Officially, we should be calling them eye plastics. I don't see that happening anytime soon. We still call them eyeglasses, but they're not using glass anymore. They're using plastic. So how do they grind down plastic based on the prescription of what your eyes require? That's what they do, is it will determine the curvature and the thickness of that lens, which will determine the prescription strength that you need. But how do they grind it down, which is the representation of this kind of opaque, translucent, not crystal clear? How do they grind it down and go from that to true optical clarity? Now, I know this is catching a glare based on the light, but this industry called cosmetic car care, auto detailing, auto body paint, more the world of auto detailing that is filled with so much hype, BS, ambiguity, as I said. Optical clarity, what the hell does that even mean? And it's a valid point. The problem is I have not seen any manufacturer tell you what it means and how it actually applies, and bring clarity, no pun intended, but bring clarity to that term of optical clarity. So I thought this would be great. In the middle here, this has been sanded down with, wait for it, 3000 grit sanding paper. Because I was just shooting a video yesterday with Tom. We were doing a demo in preparation for the SEMA 2019. I have no idea when you're going to wander in on this video and see it. Could be 5 years from now. So we have about 4 days till SEMA 2019 starts. We're aggressively trying to prepare for it. So this is going to be one of our demos. So if you are seeing this video prior to that moment, come and see us at the show. But what I want to do is I want to sand this piece of plastic down with different types of grit, different levels of grit of sanding paper that are commonly used. For example, I have 1200 grit here. I'm going to show that to you. 1200 grit, and I have 2000 grit here. Now, because there's a lot of overlap between the auto body world and the world of professional detailing, but there is some very distinct differences. One of the differences has to do with the thickness of the clear coat. So in the auto body world, you can lay down as many layers of clear coat as you want. based on your strategy and your end game. But when it comes to OE, and those are abbreviations for original equipment. For example, if you've heard the term or the acronym OEM, that stands for Original Equipment Manufacturing, which means a stock car, a car from the factory, a car you buy off the dealer lot. It will have clear coat that is very, very thin. Why do they make it so thin? Well, because they need it thick enough to provide some UV inhibitors to it, but they need to make it thin enough so that they save money. That's where the bean counters come in and say, hey, guys, shareholders that we're beholding to, we really need to turn a profit here so that you continue to invest in our company and we all get paid at the end of the day. So we need to reduce that clear coat, and it's a fine balance act between thick enough where you have some true UV inhibitors to it. And by the way, in case you don't know, it is the thickness of the clear coat, despite the actual formulation, that will largely determine how much UV inhibitors are in it. The thickness will determine that. So thicker clear coat is better than thin clear coat. But when it comes to paint correction, if you accept that you are literally polishing your way or abrading, so any type of polish or compound will have abrasives to them if they're doing what's called mechanical polishing, and that will wear away a certain thickness of the clear coat in the process of doing paint correction, heavy defect removal. In this case, the defects is sanding marks. So that is one of the unique features of the Ceram-X, and that is how it is pronounced, is Ceram-X, is that it's safe, effective. What do I mean by safe? Well, the safe in this context means this: the ability to remove defect removal, sanding marks, and finish to a swirl-free finish with the removal of the least amount of clear coat, which is a good thing. That's what I mean by safe. This is one of the attributes of this product. Not only is it a single product polish, but it's a very safe polish that will allow you to do heavy defect removal and remove the least amount of clear coat. I decided I want to push this to the extreme, kind of like we did with the hood demo, if you saw that. So here I have 600 grit sanding paper. Hopefully it's showing up. So I'm going to do 3 sections here. I'm going to cut the camera off, and I'm going to prep it, I'm going to tape it off, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring you back in, and we're going to test with the different pads that CSI offers. And I'm going to show you what I can tweak out, finesse, tease out, whatever you want to call it. And with that said, let's cut it here, and I'm going to pull you back in just a moment. Here's the setup. 2000 grit, 1200 grit, 600 grit. I've got it marked, and I want to show you me sanding it just to verify. Here I have my water bottle, and as a rule in the auto body world, they tend to fold things in 3s, so that's how I'll be using it. Just to verify that in fact, yes, this is 2000 grit. Now I have my 1200 grits folded in 3s. Got my 600 grit. Okay guys, I actually sanded off the numbers, so I had to relabel it. 2000 grit, 1200 grit, 600 grit. You see my face? Probably not, because I can't see your guys' face. So what I want to do is I'm going to take off this tape, because it's actually kind of a pain to work around tape. It wads up your polish, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take off the tape. I'm going to re-tape off the top so that we can know where the original sanding marks are. And I'm going to work below it just to verify. So I'm going to be just working in the center, knowing that I'm going to still have sanding marks up here and sanding marks at the bottom. I just want to work right through the middle and develop and see what happens with optical clarity. I'm going to bust out my Milwaukee cordless polisher. Thank you, Milwaukee. No, I'm not getting endorsed by them. We've got our 4-ply 100% wool cutting pad. This is the most aggressive type of polishing pad that you can start with. I'm going to go with the Ceram-X, and I'm going to, even though I've got the D1 here, D1, they're both polishes. They're not compounds, neither one of them. This is a polish enhancer. This will produce what we call high resolution, 1080p, call it what you want. This would take it to 4K results. Very few people, and I mean very few people, have the ability or the trained eye to even know what 4K results look like. I get it, if you have a 4K TV, you can clearly see it, but when it comes to paint defect removal, it's a very different world. So, how you use it, you press, you put your little bit of splatter there, your polish right in the middle of the pad. This is how much I'm using. Now I'm going to get, this is a little unstable. It's not a perfectly set up demos here. So I've got this wedged into the corner of this contraption here, and I'm going to go back and forth, and we're going to see, and I'm going to take you step by step to see what kind of results that we can produce based on the depth of the scratch. So what you do is you just apply it right to the middle, your pad straight down, and you just turn it on, and what that does is it infuses the pad with the polish. The polish gels up, it doesn't dry, and now you just work from there. And in the auto body world, as well as the auto detailing world, it's what's called going up on an edge. You go up on an edge to produce more friction, to introduce more cutting ability. Now, when I'm teaching a beginner, I tell them to always keep it flat, because the more you go up on an edge, you're going to get results quicker, but you're also going to introduce more what's called swirl marks or hologramming. But I'm going to do both. Oh, and FYI, I've got this, I'm going to set this to 1600 RPMs.